Hello, everyone. Welcome in. I'm Skyr, and this is Storytime with Skyr. We're reading, Oh, I didn't realize that didn't work, apparently. Hello, hi Foppin. I was gonna show you that Kindle gave me like the new covers for the Lioness series. Yeah, see? It gave me the. There we go. It didn't update on this originally, so I was like, I would show you in the library, but no, that wasn't working at all. But here, I got the new covers. Ooh, your Kindle's still missing? Oh no, you like the anime covers? Yeah, I'm still a fan of like the OG covers I've gotten. I have in paper form, but I like these are like of the new cover. These are by far my favorites. These are the 40th anniversary covers. Oh, weird. Okay. Hey, wait 1 sec. Yeah.
Hi, butt spot.
Yeah, yep. I mean, double. Yeah. Yeah, they were in yeah, early 80s. And there's a this is the 40th anniversary. Was this past June, July? Can't 100% remember. But yeah. Yeah. Tammy's still writing and still, but she's getting up there in years. Okay. I am not weird. Okay. All right. But yeah, the new covers were made to commemorate the 40th anniversary of the series. Your Kindle's still missing, Foppin? I know where mine is. It's just it is just I haven't charged it in a bit. It's in my coffee table. That's the word I was looking for. Living room coffee table. There we go. I've been checked through some of my bags and stuff. I would bring it to school. Ooh, yeah. I've been listening to audiobooks a lot more. Well, I've been listening to lit RPG audiobooks lately. I'm sure I've just told you this. I'm listening to the Ritualist series. It's gotten better from the first book. First couple of books I was talking to you about them. At first, I wouldn't have rated based on the first book. I wouldn't have rated it into one of my favorites, but it's getting there. But yeah, I've been enjoying listening to audiobooks lately, and normally I had started doing it just by when I walk. I really need to get back to that, but lately it's been all day, every day, and it's just been when it's quiet, it's like I can't stand it anymore. So I've been listening to audiobook while I work, while I do stuff. Only when I'm not watching TV or talking to someone face to face or streaming. I'm listening to audiobooks lately. So that's been my life lately, audiobooks. But today we are starting book 4, the last book of this particular series, Lioness Rampant. And for the end of the last book, Alana learned how to fix her sword. She went on adventuring to what was supposed to be a warmer place through winter when George returns to Chorus. As you can see by the cover, she probably doesn't stay there long. Yeah, if you're wondering, this is the map of Tortal. Very, very simplified map. They actually have like they've actually did like a full map. I have it in 2 sizes. I need to get them framed. Does it have all the places? It does actually, like all the main places. Like, oh, I can zoom in. Haha. So we have, yeah, Chorus is here. Fort Kane is where she was with George. Oh yeah, it was, yeah, that's, yeah, the physical map I have is missing the missing the place where she moves to. Right now it's not on this map because it hasn't been created yet. Like, at the end of this book is when Alana, or when George gets the place, and like where Pirate Swoop is down this way-ish. It was between Chorus and Port Lagan. I think it might be like kind of along here. Yeah. Yep. There you go. Okay, I'm wondering what the M word is now. To my husband Tim, who was teaching me that the M word can be a good word, and to my my editor Jean Carl, who changed her initial no to yes. I'm thinking it's I'm thinking it's not what our brains the marriage maybe, probably marriage or mom. Definitely not what our brains jump to, that's for sure. I'm pretty sure anyways. Not to say that a favorite author can't have her kinks, but I'm pretty sure she wouldn't have that published in a young adult book. Is what I'm saying. So, shall we start? Okay. There we go. Buttons. Distractions. It happens. Chapter 1. Lioness from Turtle. On a March afternoon, a knight and a man-at-arms reached the gate of the I was going to read that as maternity ward for a moment. Don't ask me why. Of the Maronite city of Barat. The guards hid their smiles as they looked the noble over. Inside, the beardless youth could as well have been a squire, with only a shield to reveal his higher rank. They wondered aloud if the youngster could hold his lance, let alone unseat an opponent with it. Hearing them, the knight favored them with a broad grin. The guards, liking his reaction, fell silent. The man-at-arms gave a tug on their pack horse's lead rein. The small party moved through the gates into the city. Most nobles dressed richly, but this knight wore well-traveled leather, covered with a white burnous, like those worn by the vizier of the Tartalian desert. With the burnous's hood pushed back, everyone could see that the knight's hair was copper, cut so it brushed his shoulders. His eyes were an odd purple shade that drew stares. His face determined. Before him, in a cup fixed onto his mare's saddle, rode a black cat. The man-at-arms was dressed like the knight. There were no grins for him. He was a burly, dark-haired commoner with no-nonsense eyes. It was he who asked directions to the inn called the Wandering Bard, while the knights looked with interest at the streets around them. They set off in the direction of the inn, picking their way through the crowds with ease. The cat swiveled his head, looking up at the knight. "I think you're a boy." To most, his utterances sounded like those of any cat. To the few he chose, he spoke as plainly as a human. "Good," the knight replied. That's less fuss over me." "Is that why you left your shield covered?" "Be sensible, faithful," was the tart reply. "The shield's covered because I don't want it to get all over dust. It takes forever to clean it. This far south would have heard of me." The man-at-arms, who'd drawn level with them, grinned. "You'd be surprised. News has a way of traveling." The common room of the Wandering Bard was deserted except for the innkeeper, Winfield. He was resting after a noon rush. He'd just begun his own meal when a stable boy charged in. "You want to hurry, master?" Suddenly sound like Dobby. The boy puffed excited. "There's a knight in the yards. A Turtle knight." "What of what?" Winfield replied. "We've had knights in the bard before." "Wait, what of that?" "What of that?" Winfield replied. "We've had knights in the bard before." "Not a knight like this one," the boy announced. "This one be a girl." "Don't joke with me, lad," Winfield began. Then he remembered. "That's right. Sir Miles wrote me of the lass he adopted a year past. Said she was a lad for years, as page and squire, till she was knighted. That was when our stables almost burned, and I didn't pay his the attention I ought." "What's her shield?" "Shield's covered," was the reply. "But her man wears a pin like one. It's red with a gold cat a-rearing on it. That's her, Alana of Trebond and Allow. Sir Miles' heir." Winfield got up, removing his apron to throw it on the table. "And with a Shang dragon here already, It's bound to be a good week. The stable yard, you said? Alana of Chabond and Alao, sometimes called the Lioness, or the cat on her shield, was surprised to be greeted by the innkeeper. The host of such a prosperous house did not meet his guests unless they were wealthy or famous. Since she had lived in Nortal's great southern desert for over a year, Alana did not realize she had become famous. Afoot, her cat cradled in her arms, she was short and stocky, sturdy rather than muscular. She did not look as if she could have disguised her sex for years to undergo a night's harsh training, and she certainly did not look as if she would excel at her training to the point where some men who were qualified to judge such matters would call her the finest Skyr in Tortal. She also did not look like the adopted heir of one of her realm's wealthiest noblemen. I don't know if Sir Miles told you, Winfield explained, but I'm honored to serve his interests here in Barat. I bid you and your man welcome to the Wandering Bard. He nodded to the man-at-arms, who supervised the stabling of the horses. Whatever you wish, just let my folk know. Would the two of you like a cool drink to lay the dust? I'll see to the packs in the rooms, the man told them. I know, he said quickly as his night mistress opened her mouth. You're wanting a bath, hot water, soap, and soon. He grinned at Winfield. She's that finicky for a lass who's living on the road. Alana shrugged. What can I say? I like to be clean. Thanks, Karam. Sir. I needed it to change my server I'm streaming out of. I see it's not a great one. I'm sorry if the quality is a bit sketchy. One sec. I mean, the bitrate's still at 3000, so I think it's fine. Ish. Let me know if there's any issues, please. He's been with you long? Winfield asked as he showed her into the common room, indicated a seat, and sat down facing her. Forever, Alana replied. Karam changed my diapers, and he never lets me forget it. He helped me. He helped raise my twin brother and me. To a maid who'd come to ask what she'd like, Alana said, Fruit juice would be wonderful if you have it. The innkeeper smiled as the servant girl left. The Wandering Bard has whatever may hit your fancy, Lady Alana. How was your honored father, if you don't mind my asking? Seems okay to you, Foppin? Thanks. I think that if it was Baldur's Gate, I'd probably have to call it, but since it's just a reading stream, probably okay. There's not a lot that of hang up a bit about. So hopefully the normal server is working fine tomorrow. Okay, the Wandering Bard is whatever you may hit your fancy, Lady Alana. I read that already. How is your honored father, if you don't mind my asking? The maid returned with a pitcher and a tankard on a tray, presenting them to Alana. Taking a swallow from her tankard, the knight sat back with a sigh. He was fine when I last heard from him 2 months ago. Graham and I have been on the road for weeks. I've never been out of Tartal before, so we took our time. Marin doesn't seem much different. Winfeld grinned. Nor should it. Tartal and Hussein and Marin being cut from the same cloth. Things change east of here. Alana saw a shadow cross her host's face. Trouble? Just the sickness that comes on the land now and then, was the reply. There's a war in Sylvain the last 18 months or so. Only a Saren could tell you what started it, or what'll finish it. But there, Winfield added, seeing a chambermaid at the door, your rooms be ready, along with your bath. The knight picked up her cat, who was playing with Winfield's apron. Come on, faithful, she groaned, settling him over her shoulder. Let's get clean. A chill went through the innkeeper as he watched them go. Only now had he seen that the cat's eyes were not a proper shade of amber, green, or grey. They were as purple as Alana's. Instinctively, he made the sign against evil. The bath was everything a worn and dirty knight could wish. Large enough to fit all of her and filled with hot water. She splashed contentedly, rinsing a week's grit from her hair. Tongue and paws are all I need, Faithful commented. Is that why you smell after a night in the woods? Demanded Alana. Faithful ignored her, curling up on the bed. Alana made a face at him and reached for the copper pitcher filled with rinse water. Sunlight hit its side, dazzling her. Her blinded vision held an image. A gem, blue-violet, the size of a silver noble piece, set into a disc of gold, its facets absorbing light, not reflecting it. Beyond it was snow, a blizzard's worth. The picture faded when she blinked. She knew there was no sense in worrying about it. Sooner or later, she would find out what it meant. She'd had the vision before. In the meantime, her bath was getting cold. Karam knocked as she combed her hair. I've eaten, he called through the door. I'll find out where your scholar lives, then have a bit of enjoyment. Do us both a favor and stay out of trouble. I can take care of myself, she reminded him. That's what worries me. Have fun, Alana called as his footsteps retreated, thinking, why is he worried? She rarely sought trouble. Tonight she planned to avoid it entirely. Downstairs, Faithful abandoned her for the kitchen. Alana found a corner where she would have a good view of the rest of the common room. While the wandering bard seemed respectable, she'd been traveling long enough to know she could never be too prepared. Adjusting her sword so she'd have room to draw it if necessary, she settled back to enjoy the meal. Winfield came over after she finished. If there's anything you want, anything at all, you've only to ask, he assured her, taking a chair at her invitation. No service is too great for mouths of Lau's heir, not in a house of mine. He pays us well as his agents. A generous man, your father. Alana smiled. He's generous with everything. Remembering what Winfield had said earlier, she asked, what's going on in Sylvain? The innkeeper looked away. She rips herself apart. The community tribes hunt lowlanders through the mountains, sometimes on the southern plain itself. The mountain-born come west in flocks, running from the fighting. The lowlanders are so busy slaying the Chimera that they let all else go, even the harvest. Only when their belts could be tightened no more did the warlord bring in paid soldiers and send the lowlanders back to their farms. The refugees talk of little but hunger and killing. My wife's Saren, it breaks her heart and no end in sight. He forced a smile and added, enough of such doom talk. What brings you here, my lady, if I can be so bold as to ask? We're looking for a scholar, Alana explained. Nahom Gendrai. Another friend of your father's. He's well thought of, is Master Gendrai. I need him to translate something. Alana reached inside her tunic to draw out a leather envelope. Carefully she opened it and unfolded its contents. A map of the eastern lands and the inland sea, charred at the left and top edges. Only natural landmarks, rivers, and mountain ranges were shown. A tiny star marked a spot in the roof of the world, the great mountain range that cuts off the eastern lands from the rest of the world. Silvery runes, the writing that brought her to Marin for a translation, formed a column on the right side. This looks like the old one's writing, she explained. Miles says the best translator is Nahom Jendai Berat. Winfield touched the charred edges. How did this happen, my lady? Do you know? Alana ran her fingers over the map. You know Koram and Ivan living with the Bazir? Winfield nodded. Our headman, Halef Sief, was worried about a friend of his, a shaman living near Lake Tiragan. Koram and I went to see her. She drew a breath. Her village was having a bad winter, but with famine and cold. The wandering priest had convinced the people that if they purified themselves, if they killed their sorceress, his god would put food in their storehouses. I've seen things like it. Folk aren't sensible when they're hungry. Karam and I got there as they started to burn her. We stopped it and got her away, but she was hurt too badly for me to fix it. In answer to his questioning look, she explained, I know some healing magic. Anyway, she died. The map was all she had. She asked us to take it back to Halef Sief. And he sent it to Master Jendai for reading? Winfield asked. Alana shook her head. He didn't want it. He gave it to me. Said it was for me, not him. She smiled wryly. Halef Sief can be determined when he likes. He says he's happy with the Bloody Hawk. That's our tribe. Some of it didn't make sense, what he said about destiny and quests. So here I am. Winfield rose in answer to a yell for service. You've come a long way for curiosity, my lady. Alana grinned at him. I didn't have anything more important to do. There was another yell, the voice that shook the rafters. Winfield bellowed, Just hold on, Joss. They'll be served before you go home. He bowed to Alana and went to help the barkeep. A maid placed a glass of wine in front of Alana. He sent it to you, my lady. The girl explained, pointing to a man by the hearth. He said I was to tell you, redheads must sit together for safety's sake, and he wonders if you might join him when this glass is done. Leaning down, she whispered, Not meaning any disrespect, but if you don't want him, I do. Alana looked at the man. He was toasting her. His eyes were blue-green in a tan, pock-marked face. His hair was as copper as hers, clipped short. His nose had met several hard objects. Moustache framed his sensual mouth. His jaw was heavy. He was in excellent fighting condition. Broad shoulders, powerful chest, hard waist. heavily muscled limbs. He dressed as she did, in shirt and breeches. She also saw he carried no weapons, not even a dagger. To a knight, this was important. The only men who went weaponless were sorcerers, priests, fools, or those who didn't need them. In a violent world, few did not need to carry some kind of weapon. He shouldn't be attractive, not with a broken nose and his face all scarred. From what, I wonder? Bad skin as a boy, perhaps? But he is attractive, she thought nervously. Why is he interested in me? I'm not as pretty as some of the other women here. She raised her glass and drank, her eyes not leaving his. From her arrival at court until she'd won her shield, few had known she was a female. Although Prince Jonathan had been her lover, he was also her friend and her knight master. They hadn't needed the courting rituals John used with noble ladies. George Cooper, who also loved her, had flirted with Lioness sometimes. When he did it to the point of flustering her, she'd simply ordered him to stop. Of the other men she knew, most couldn't forget her knighthood enough to indicate a romantic interest in her. Since the revelation of her real identity and sex, the young knight had lived among the Vizier. To them, she was the woman who rides like a man, and sexless. So, although she wanted to join the man, or to indicate she was interested, Alana didn't know how. How did a lady flirt with a total stranger? No noble women showed interest with a fluttered fan or dropped handkerchief. Vizier women used their eyes over their veils. She had no fan or veil. Her handkerchief wouldn't be noticed if she dropped it here. She didn't have the courage to walk over to his table and sit down. She didn't know pleading filled her eyes. He grinned, a slow, white-toothed smile that made her insides turn over, and came to her. Liam, he introduced himself, holding out a massive ham. And you're Alana the Lioness, from Turtal. She returned his firm grip. Liam's palm was warm and calloused, like her own. May I join you? He asked, his eyes dancing. Alana nodded, and Liam sat. And Brat long? He wanted to know, as the maid brought more wine and fruit. Alana shook her head. Not for longer than I can help. She filled his glass. I'd forgotten how noisy cities are. I've been with a Vizier. So I heard. It took some asking to find out what happened after you killed the Conte Duke. He spoke with the peasant's broad vowels and nearly skipped R's. She frowned. You make it a habit of following my doings? She wasn't sure she liked the idea. He nodded. People like you change the world. A smart man keeps track of such folk. It was a great thing, killing your king's nephew and proving him a traitor. Duke Roger was a powerful man. Alana looked away, feeling cold. He deserved to die. He tried to murder the queen. It bothers you still? Looking at him, Alana saw understanding. He knows, she thought. He knows about things like betrayal and being afraid, and the looks on people's faces when they know you did something they thought impossible. Sometimes, everyone admired him. It all happened at once. Me finding what he planned, him revealing that I'm a girl in front of the court. I wanted to have time for people to get used to who I really am. Then I killed him. I don't even like killing, so I wonder sometimes. Don't fret. He took her hand and gave it a squeeze. He was rotten clean through. Take my word for it. You knew him? He nodded. his eyes a distant green. We met a long time ago. How? Why did you hate him? I mean, it seems as if you hated him. Everyone I knew liked him. Nearly everyone. She sat up eagerly. It isn't fair. You know everything about me. He chuckled, his eyes warming. I'll tell you someday, kitten, if you're very good. He smoothed his mustache. She blushed. A cautious thought warned, you'll be in trouble if you don't watch out. You don't know anything about him, and he's got you half into his arms. She drew back. You're flirting with me, she told him sternly. Fun, isn't it? He grinned. Who are you? What do you do? Alana wanted to know. There's fair. She stopped, hearing a commotion at the door. A familiar voice caroled. Such the sights the princess never did see, and the honor of the bigger this very day. She winced. That's my friend Karam, she told Liam, rising. If I don't stop him, he'll sing the verse with the merchants and the fishwives, and we'll all be in for it. Liam's grin flashed. I know the song. He kissed her hand. You'll see me again. My word for it on it. With persuasion and bullying, she got her boisterous man-at-arms to his chamber, where he collapsed on the bed. Gendrai is back from his country house today, he yawned. He'll see us tomorrow evening. Within seconds, he was snoring. Alana let herself out of his room, planning to go to bed rather than look for the unsettling Liam again. She had unlocked her door when the innkeeper came up the stairs, rubbing his hands delightedly. Seeing her, he asked, Be there anything else you need? I'm fine, she reassured him, nodding toward the noisy common room downstairs. She added, It sounds like you have more than enough to do. Winfield beamed. It's a good house tonight. A very good house. No surprise with you and the Shang Dragon here. The Shang Dragon? She'd never had a chance to talk with one of the fabled Shang warriors. She'd always wanted to. Now the gods have put her on the same inn with the best of them? He's here? Will you introduce me? Winfield looked at her strangely. I didn't think you needed introducing. Not with you and him talking like you were. Liam? Liam Ironarm, the dragon of Shang. He didn't tell you? Alana shook her head. And you didn't know. He knows of you. He told me so this morning. I don't know anyone of the Order of the Shang, she informed him. They don't associate much with nobles or with the Bazir. Well, you seem to be on a good enough terms with the dragon, the man said slyly. Alana blushed a beet red and went into her room with a hasty, Good night. To give Winfield and the wandering bard credit, it was not her bed or her room that kept her awake. The bed was comfortable. The walls were thick enough to muffle the common room's noise. At first it seemed as if the little things kept her awake. First it was her cat scratching on the door for admittance. Then it was the light of the moon falling across her eyes, until she got up and drew the curtain across her window. Then she found the room stuffy. With a sigh, she rose again to open the window, only a crack because the weather was still raw. She couldn't clear her mind of thought. Partly it was the excitement of having a chance at last to talk with the Shang warrior. What she knew of the legendary order of warriors she'd learned piecemeal. Warriors named after mythical beasts, unicorn, griffin, phoenix, were the best of the order. The dragon was the best of the best. Each Shang warrior received an animal's name after passing an ordeal, and then living in the world a year. She knew that Shang accepted boy and girl children, no older than 7 of age, and as young as 4, to study their hard way of life. They were required to master many kinds of weapons and, more interestingly, a number of bare-hand techniques of fighting. So, Liam was a Shang dragon. That explained why he was bold enough or uncaring enough to go weaponless. He had little fear from human predators. He has dragon's eyes, she thought, remembering how they change color. Pale green when he doesn't want to share anything with you, and, she grinned, blue-green when he's flirting. She finally gave up in sleep and dressed, thinking maybe a ride would settle her. Within moments, she, Faithful, and her gold-colored horse, Moonlight, were galloping out of Barat. They rode on and on while Alana remained deep in her thoughts. Not noticing how much ground they covered, she paid little attention to the road, or the fog that had closed in. She was too preoccupied. All her life she'd planned to be a knight-errant, roving the world to do great deeds. But now she was learning that such a life included periods of boredom, riding through countryside that seldom changed. Not every village had a cruel overlord. Few crossroads were held by evil knights. At home, if the king wished it, he could put her on border patrols like the other knights she knew, hunting bandits and raiders. She didn't think the king would give her such work. Harold was most displeased that she had lied about who she truly was. A quiet man who preferred harmony at his courts. The king said little, but he left Alana no doubt that he disapproved of her. In any case, she knew Tartal. She wanted to go places she didn't know. She wanted to see places left off most Tartalan maps. The lands south of Karthak, the roof of the world, and what lay beyond it. Surely there would be things for her to do when she'd left the more civilized areas behind. Moonlight stopped, tossing her head nervously, and Alana had to take notice. By then, the fog was so thick, she couldn't see the road beneath her mare's feet. The knight dismounted, taking the rein to lead her mare, but they had plodded only a few yards when Moonlight halted, ears flat with alarm. No amount of urging would make her go forward, which worried her mistress. Moonlight was careful, but not timid. The cat sat calmly in his saddle cup, ears pricked forward. Fog held them. It muffled even the clink of harness. Now Alana felt something odd. She sneezed. The ember-like stone she wore at her throat burst into fiery light, growing warm against her skin. In front of them, the fog wove and braided itself to form a tall woman. She was green-eyed and black-haired, shining in her own magic light. The fog was her dress, glittering with drops of water. Alana had only seen her once before, when the woman had given her the ember stone. Now she released the reins and dropped to her knees, bowing her head. "Goddess," she whispered. "Where do you ride, my daughter?" The immortal's voice was beautiful and terrible, carrying echoes of the wind and the hounds in the pack. "Is it not late for a ride for pleasure?" "I couldn't sleep, my mother." The cool hand cupped Alana's chin, making her look up. She met the great goddess's eyes without flinching, even though her body was quivering. "You have achieved all you desired, have you not? A shield is yours, rightfully won. You have slain your greatest enemy. What do you seek now, Alana?" Alana shrugged. "I don't know. I feel there's something important I should be doing. I have no idea what it is. I'm just drifting. That's why I brought the map here to be translated. Maybe it'll point me toward." "Unless you need me for something?" she asked, hopeful. The goddess smiled. "I do not plan mortals' lives for them, Alana. You must do that for yourself. However, if you follow the map, you will find its path interesting. But think as you ride." She picked up Faithful, who'd been waiting at her feet. What will become of you? Will you drift all your days? Faithful chirped to the goddess, his tail waving, and she smiled at him. Now that he had the mother's attention, he addressed her at length. Try though she might, Alana couldn't tell what he said. Finally, the goddess put him down. The edges of her form grew indistinct, blending with the fog once again. For a while longer, my friend, she told the cat. Do not disappoint me. Faithful returned to Alana, who held him close. The immortal was now a shadow, her voice distant. Who will you be, Alana? She was gone. For the first time since she'd settled Moonlight, Alana paid attention to her surroundings. She was in a forest, and that was baffling. This was the same road she and Karam had taken on their way to Berat. That morning they'd left the woods just after dawn, entering farm country. How could she have done a day's ride in a few hours? The fog was still too thick for safe riding. Finding a rock, the knight sat to await the dawn, feeling cold, damp, and tired. She was beginning to nod off when the breezes came to scatter the mist, unveiling the road. Yawning, she mounted up and urged Moonlight into a trot. Faithful went to sleep without a word. Alana envied him. Her jaws cracked every time she yawned, and her eyelids felt heavy. At last she dozed. A jolt, then a burst of pain as she was struck the road woke her. Like the stablemen and troopers who taught her, she filled the air with curses. There were words for people who fell asleep and dropped from their saddles. Moonlight stared at her mistress, wondering why Alana had chosen to dismount and sit in the mud. Swearing doesn't help, Faithful remarked. Besides, you woke me up. Does your worship want me to pull the curtain so the light won't hurt your eyes? Alana yelled, beat red with embarrassment. Shall I call you for the noon meal, or will you sleep the day out? There's no talking to you when you're like this, was the cat's reply. He went back to sleep. Moonlight nudged her. With a groan, Alana rose. I can only blame myself, she growled. I could have gone to a convent. Never learned to wrestle and be dumped on my head. Never have broken any bones or fallen in the dirt. I'd be clean and wearing pretty dresses. By now, I'd be married to a buffle-brained nobleman with a small fief. I'd probably have a clan. Pretty, buffle-brained children. Trying to wipe her hands before taking the reins, she found her breeches were as muddy as her hands. Don't remind me I picked this life. I have no one to blame but myself. Moonlight shook her head as if to say she wouldn't. I always knew there was insanity in my family. Alana heard hoofbeats and froze. She didn't want a passerby to see her in this fix. Determinedly, she looked away as the other horse came closer. Her hands tightened on Moonlight's reins as her face went a darker red. If a stranger sees me, that's bad, she told herself. The worst that can happen is for this to be Liam Ironarm, and me falling off my horse like an incompetent. She turned. It was Liam. He was trying to hide his grin. Nice morning for a ride, he greeted her. A little wet, though. Alana swallowed, fighting her temper. I don't normally do this, you know. Not for a moment did I think it. Why are you here anyway? She demanded, too embarrassed to be polite. It's a long way for a morning ride. I saw you go out, and you didn't come back. I thought I'd check. Too kindly, he added, Oh, don't think I figured you'd run out on Winfield Bill. You left your man and your bag, so I knew it wouldn't be that. Alana gasped with fury. How dare! Don't Don't like to be teased, is that it? Relenting, he said, "Hitch the mare to a lead and ride double with me. I'll keep you a horse." "I'll be fine." With a sigh, the red-headed man dismounted. "Didn't your mama teach you to speak polite to strangers on the road?" He put Moonlight on the lead with his big boned gray. "I could be a sorcerer and turn you into a mouse." "You're the Shang Dragon. You won't turn me into anything." "Don't worry about it," he said cheerfully. "I pull my breeches one leg at a time, same as you." Unstrapping a blanket from his saddle, he wrapped it around her. "There now. You're tired and wet and grumpy, in no condition to ride. I fell asleep once, Alana the Lioness. A tree knocked me from the saddle into a ditch. Right in front of the men I was to command. Bless their hearts, they didn't tease me about it. Not much. Up with you." He drew her into the saddle as easily as if she were a child, mounting behind her and settling her into the circle of his arms. "Go to sleep, kitten," he murmured. His voice trembled in his deep chest. "You're all right now." Karam awoke late with a head he would not wish on his worst enemy. For a long time he waited for his night mistress to arrive with her hangover cure. When she did not appear, he went in search of her. It hurt even to dress. It would be worth her heartless quips to rid himself of the headache and nausea. After the pain of dressing, he was in no humor to find a stranger letting himself out of Lana's room. Hadn't she been talking to this red-headed fellow in the common room the night before? Graham couldn't remember. He barred Liam's path. "I suppose you have an excellent reason for being in there, all of which you'll tell me without delay." Alana had friends to protect her name and her person, as this man was about to learn. I mean, it's kind of late there, Karam. If that was the case, anyways. The dragon grinned, recognizing the older man. "You must be Karam." "I am." "That tells me nothing about ye." Liam eyed the burly man at arms. "It seems to me the young lady takes care of herself." "I suppose ye had that from her," snapped Karam. "She's wrong. There's someone in the city who'll speak for ye." His hand shifted warningly to his dagger hilt. "The Shang Dragon needs nobody to speak for him." Liam's eyes went a pale green. "I understand you're wanting to protect her, but I don't like threats." Karam frowned. "I'm to believe you're Liam Ironarm?" "Come downstairs before she hears you." Liam sighed. "Winfield knows me." The host's verification of the dragon's identity told Karam it was time to change tactics. So he invited Liam to share his morning meal, and the food eased his hangover. He could concentrate better on quizzing the red-headed man. "Does she know?" he asked. "Lady Alana?" A slow grin spread across Liam's face. "She knows." "No doubt she's in a dither trying to decide what she wants to ask ye first." Karam thought for a moment, then met the dragon's now grey eyes. "What's the likes of ye want with Alana for your bond?" The big man shrugged. "She's a pretty thing. Different. And full of fight. I never heard that she avoids men." Remembering Prince Jonathan and the thief George, Karam flushed. "She's still not a woman without all virtue." Liam chuckled. "She's too good a warrior to have a bad reputation as a woman. At least, no one will call her bad when she might hear. I'd think the Shang Dragon had his Pick of pretty ladies, growled Karam. Liam rose. Maybe, but she's not just that, is she? She's as known in her way as I am in mine. He put a massive hand on Karam's arm. I'm not a village lad wanting to boast of having the Lioness's pelt in my hut, Master Smithison. I like her. I'd probably like you if you stopped glumping about my being in her room. He left a coin for his food and strolled out as Karam sank his face into his hands. Life used to be simple, he told his palms. Faithful jumped up to sniff at Liam's plate. Probably more boring, too. After running errands until noon, Karam returned to find Alana dressed and cleaning her weapons. Don't scowl, she told him. I'm not awake. The chambermaid says your clothes were all over mud. What kind of larks were you kicking up last night without me to keep an eye on ye? I wasn't kicking up any larks, she yawned. I couldn't sleep, so I went for a ride out of the city. Were you riding under the horse's belly, then? Alana could feel a blush creeping up on her cheeks. It's too embarrassing to talk about. Karam wasn't to be so lightly dismissed. Does this have anything to do with that Liam being in your room this morning? I got tired and fell off my horse, Alana said grumpily. I met Liam on the road. He just made sure I got back all right. He never touched me. Maybe he didn't, Karam rumbled, as red as she was. And maybe he's planning to. Closing the door, he had learned Alana murmur, Nothing wrong with that. They reached House Gendrai as the sun touched the horizon, to be greeted by Nahom Gendrai in person. Alana had expected him to resemble Miles of Alau, quiet, unkempt, and absent-minded. Instead, she and Karam found a trim man in his early 30s, surrounded by children, servants, pack animals, dogs, and baggage. He waved to Karam and waded out of the mess. My wife would greet you properly, Lady Alana, Master Smithison. But she has only recently come from childbed, and she is resting. Our sixth, he explained with a smile. The girl. He accepted their congratulations with a bow, adding, Excuse the bustle. Our bags didn't come until this afternoon. He led them into the house. I'd be happy to assist Miles' daughter. If it weren't for him, I'd be just another nobleman, administering my estates, worrying about how I stood with the king, and scheming to get into power at court. My wife handles the fief better than I ever could, and the only things I bother with are the hundreds of years gone. I owe that to Miles. He was the best teacher I had, with an incredible mind. What an incredible mind. Alana picked up Faithful, who was trading sharp words with the dog in the hall. You were one of Miles' students? For 6 years. He showed them into a room that was lit only by the dying sun. I suppose it's too dark. He began a futile search for flint and steel. I tell the maids I keep demons in here so they won't disturb anything. Unfortunately, I don't get my candles lit. Alana laughed. Now he reminded her of Miles. Pointing at the hearth logs, she sent her gift out in a burst of violet until they caught flame. With quick gestures, she strewed the flames to the branches of candles. Show off. Faithful grumbled. Alana looked at him in surprise. I am not. This is handier. A year ago you would have taken forever to do it the hard way, the cat pointed out. Alana blushed. A year ago, I was different. Do they always chat like this? Nahom Jendai asked Karam. Often enough. I messed up his voice. I don't care. The older man gave him the map. Gendry stretched the parchment out on the table, studying it for several minutes. Finally, Alana said, "Should we go and come back when you've had a chance to work on it?" He glanced up, startled. Clearly he had forgotten they were there. "No, of course not. I can tell you what it says. Please, come closer." Alana and Karam gathered around the desk. Faithful perched on the knight's shoulder. Gendry's finger traveled over the map surface. "Here are the eastern lands, the inland sea, a bit of the southern lands. That's to locate the reader. This map isn't for everyday geography. Much is left out. There are cities, nations, roads, 100 things not shown. Only the points of interest are here, at the eastern end of the great inland sea. In the mountains, these jagged lines show the roof of the world east of Serene. This valley lies inside the roof's western edge, north of where Port Idiaper is now. At the valley's northern end are two passes, Lumuhu and Chitral. The star marks Chitral Pass." He tapped the silvery star embossed into the map. Translated, the writing says, "In Chitral's hidden chamber, guarded by a being whose essence is time, the Dominion Jewel is kept for those with the will to strive. Take it at your risk for the saving of a troubled land." "The Dominion Jewel," Karam whispered. Alana shivered. "Fairy stories," she scoffed. "Ye were impressed by those stories in your day, miss," retorted Karam. "Your brother always wanted the tale of Giamo the Tyrant. Ye like to hear about Norden and Angela." He looked at Nahom. "The jewel's real?" "Very real," the scholar replied. "And Marin remembered the changes made by King Norden and Queen Angela 2 centuries ago. Our wealth and peace are their legacy. We have had no wars or famines or plagues since their day." He rapped the table to ward off the evils he'd mentioned. "If you have a chance to visit the capital city, you might examine the stonework of the great temple of Mithros, and on the ceremonial doors of the palace. The same motif is repeated over and over. Norin's symbol. A snow-capped mountain, Angela's a willow branch, and the Dominion Jewel between them. Marin Knights know what we owe to them and the jewel." "But it's been used for evil too," Karam reminded Gendry softly. "Indeed." The younger man's face darkened. "Giamo stole the jewel to build his Galan empire. With it, he conquered parts of Tusain, Turtal, and Scanra. Alana saw Tusain armies camped along the Drell River, as they had when she was a squire. She swallowed. Memories of the Tusain War were unpleasant. Someone stole it from Giamo's heir. His empire devoured itself 400 years ago." "Fairy tales are important," Gendry told Alana. "Legends teach us and guide scholars in searching out the truth of history." He smoothed the map before folding it. "It would be the adventure of a lifetime to find the Dominion Jewel." Faithful and Alana looked at each other. The cat's ears had pricked forward at adventure. The knight thought it over. "If I win it and return home, bringing the Dominion Jewel for the glory of Turtal, no one can suggest that I got my shield with magic and trickery. Instead of being His Majesty's most talked of knight, I'll be the honored vassal who brought a prize to honor his reign." Another voice in her mind whispered, "The roof of the world. Did I ever meet anyone who'd been that far in his lifetime? It's a place to go, someplace new. The goddess said my path would be interesting." Nahom sighed and put the map away. "Seldom do I regret my family and my duty to them. This is one of those times. I would love to go seeking such a thing. What land wouldn't prosper with a jewel in its ruler's hands?" He gave the map to Alana. How does it work? Alana asked. She fingered the ember stone at her neck. You have to be a sorcerer to wield it? Giamo was no sorcerer, Karam pointed out. Look at the damage he did. Norin wasn't gifted either, although Angela knew herb lore and healing magic. Added Gendrai, scanning a scroll rack. Here. He pulled out one, blew the dust from it, making Faithful sneeze, and unrolled it on the table. This is in High Gaulish. Do you read it? Alana and Karam shook their heads. Here's the section I want. A rough translation is, said jewel worketh its power in two fashions. In the hands of the ungifted, it exerteth natural benefices, knitting its power with the earth's own, for as far as its rulers holdeth sway. Stopping, he explained, the jewel only works for those who are rulers or conquerors by nature. It also explains why the jewel was often better used by a commoner than by someone royal born. Because just because you're born to be a king, doesn't mean you have the will for it. Where was I? In the hand of one gifted, one who understandeth the devices of sorcery, the jewel may be more directly used in healing and war, for fertility and death. A knowledgeable ruler, knowing fully the creation of magical formulae, may create new land from ocean deeps, or return the breath of a dead child. With its wielder's knowledge and the will to rule, the jewel maketh possible all things. That's scary, Alana whispered. What could Roger have done with the Dominion jewel? Graham said, thank the gods we'll never learn. Outside, the air was raw, a reminder that winter was not done. Alana shivered, walking briskly to keep up with Karam. Faithful trotted in front, sniffing the night wind. Alana thought wistfully about the busier lands. Winter came to them as chilly rains, not snow and ice. She preferred the desert winter. She was afraid of cold weather in a way she couldn't understand. I mean, you did fall into a frozen lake once, so... They weren't far from the inn when Karam spoke. Will you do? What will you do? I realized that she had been thinking of something else. He explained. The jewel, my lady. I think we should find it. Knowing how you like the cold, I didn't think you'd fancy the roof. Alana made a face. You're right. Still, if that's where the jewel is... Faithful hissed. We have company. Company? Company. Karam glanced around. Rogues. His voice was loud enough for Alana to hear. No ladder. Waiting, wanting to take our purses, doubtless. Alana glanced to the corner ahead, where 5 men in dark clothing blocked their escape. She drew lightning, shimmered faintly. Why so many of them for 2 of us? Or more on your right, Karam hissed. Because they've little else to do? Out came his broadsword. Of the thieves, 2 held swords, 2 more carried short axes, 3 had iron-shod staves. Alana guessed that the others had knives. Let us by, she ordered. You don't want the trouble it'll take you to get our money. She made the sign George taught her, the one to give her safe passage among rogues. One of them stepped forward, his sword up. Be ye Alana of Jabond and Tertal? Her as claims she's a true knight. Karam bristled. You'll find she's knight enough to if you step just a little bit closer. Our business ain't with ye, master, someone else barked. Leave now, else ye be hurt. I'll leave if ye do the same. or when you're dead. It's all the same to me. Karam shifted his stance, planting himself firmly. Alana looked at the one who'd spoken first. I'm Alana Trebond and Allow. We bring ye regards from him known as Claw back in Tortal. He bids ye, as tell ye, mourn for your lover now, whilst ye had the breath. George Cooper will be dead afore summer, but where to send ye to the Black God first. He threw himself at Alana, the swordsman and staffman following with a yell. Alana moved until she and Karam were back to back, meeting the speaker's charge and knocking his weapon aside. He came at her again with a backhand chop, and she knew he'd had little training. It wasn't enough to compare to hers. She brought lightning down across his chest, cutting deeply. He fell, and she looked for her next foe. There was little room to maneuver, little chance to counter single opponents. The thieves understood simultaneous attack. Alana and Karam blocked automatically, searching for anything that could be turned to their advantage. Hesitation now would mean death. One of the staffmen swung and missed. She ran him through. Karam shouted fiercely and someone screamed. But a swordsman looked to see the screamer's fate. Alana slashed his leg. He dropped with a cry. A knife fighter rushed to pick up the fallen sword. A black lump dropped from a roof, clinging to one man's scalp. Trying to dislodge Faithful, the thief fell onto an axe's downswing. He lost his life. A second later, the axeman was down, a victim of Alana's rapid side cut. She could hear Karam gasping. Sweat dripped into her eyes. Alana's left arm stung. She reversed lightning in a crescent, killing the man who'd wounded her. She was bleeding. She didn't dare stop to bind the cut. Faithful launched himself again, yowling furiously. Karam shouted and was down, bleeding from the thigh. Alana swung to stand over him, her brain coldly taking charge. Later, she'd remember that sweat stung in her eyes, that her arm hurt, that she was scared for Karam. Now she blocked and cut like a machine, looking everywhere at once. For a moment, lightning was caught under an axe blade, trying to free her sword. Alana was knocked down by a staff. Cursing, she rolled to her feet. Before she had her balance, two thieves leaped on her, forcing her down. One gripped her arms, yanking them behind her back. Alana bit her lip to keep from screaming. She'd always been afraid this would happen. Disarmed, in the clutch of a stronger opponent, she was trapped. The second rogue grinned at her, reaching for her tunic. The street echoed with an animal roar. Something shot into the man in front of her, Alana. He rammed into the nearby wall and was still. Liam hit the ground on both feet, spun and kicked back into an attacker. The man seemed to leap backward, sprawling yards away. The dragon shifted, his leg furling up and out, streaking toward Alana. She froze and Liam's kick struck the man gripping her. She was free. Indecent rogues reaching for tunics. Yeah. I think he had something in mind to have fun before she was dead. Or after. Who knows? Liam grinned and whirled to face the last killers. They fought and died, the street echoing with the dragon's cry. Alana's hands worked as she watched, cutting up her tunic for a bandage. Kneeling by Karam, she examined his bleeding thigh. It's not bad, Karam assured her through clenched teeth. I've had worse. He's a sight, isn't he? Alana nodded as she tied the bandage over the wound, pressing to stop the bleeding. The stories she'd heard about Shang came nowhere near the truth. The dragon went from blow to kick in a blur. When he struck a man, that man went down and stayed down. You're bleeding. Karam was rasped, holding her arm. He must have it seen too. Alana barely heard him. Awed by Liam, she whispered, I'll never be that good. Karam snorted. I have news for you, ladyship. He sat up, replacing her hands on the bandage with one of his own. You're just as quick, with a sword in your hand. Silence returned. Those of their attackers who were able to had fled. The ones who remained were either too badly hurt to run, or were dead. The dragon came to Alana and Karam, examining a tear in his sleeve. You're alright? He looked worriedly at Alana, who was beginning to feel dizzy and a little sick. Karam reached up, and Liam helped him to his feet. I was coming back from the home of a friend, and I heard the noise. Don't you know enough to stay out of trouble? Faithful came out of the shadows, his tail switching irritably. We do, the man and I. She doesn't. Liam glanced down at the cat, frowning. No. He caught Alana as she faltered and dropped in a faint. It didn't look like a bad wound, Ram said, taking Alana's left hand and examining the cut running across her forearm. Then he swore, seeing the wound reached up and back of her arm to his shoulder. Alana's shirt sleeve was thick with blood. I'll tear a bandage, he ordered Liam, pulling off his tunic. We'd best take her to the inn fast. Winfeld can fetch a healer. Quickly, he reduced the garments to strips and formed a bandage for the knight's arm. Once it was in place, he set off down the street. Does she often do this? The dragon asked, following with Alana. She's worn herself out other ways before this, silly lass. She's quick to tell you when to stop, but she never thinks maybe she should listen to her own advice. When they reached the Wandering Bard, Winfeld took over. In the space of a few minutes, the healer was seeing to Alana, while another stitched Karam's thigh. Liam went to the kitchen and returned with a mug of tea for Karam. The man-at-arms took one sniff and coughed. What have I ever done to ye? He demanded, besides threatening him when he saw him coming out of Alana's room. Liam grinned. It smells better than it tastes. Drink it. I've had to myself. Shang taught us all manner of herb lore, in case we got caught with no healer near. Crab shrugged and obeyed, choking as the stuff went down. He felt better almost immediately. Whatever it is, it works. I don't want to know what it is, he said quickly when Liam opened his mouth. It's only herbs, and your lady gets the same when she wakes up. Now, who were those men? Messengers of a kind. From an enemy of a friend of hers. Graham blushed. Liam raised an eyebrow, but the older man shook his head. He was not going to tell an almost stranger, not even this one, the whole truth. Someone who knew that if she was killed, it'd hurt Cooper, her friend. Liam yawned and stretched. Graham was envious. The red-headed man looked as if he'd been exercising hard, not fighting. Well, this Cooper's unhurt. The two of you will heal. Karam got up stiffly and offered Liam his hand. We owe ye our lives. We won't forget. Liam returned his grip. He'd have managed, I think. I just speeded things along. That was an awfully long chapter. My voice is kind of fading-ish already because of it. It's way later than it is too, yeah, right? I mean, Yeah. Time change is still catching up on me, I think. Anyway. Hydrate. Yeah. I don't even have anything to drink. Ah! Thanks for your meat, Bobbin. It missed. Oh no. Really? Let's see. Oh. Why is it there? I have no idea why that changed. Hit the bag. Hit the bug, which is funny. Okay. Yeah, you're first and only. And that still doesn't work. Apparently. And okay, that works too. Oh. Having fun. You're slurping through the hat. You're just the hat's still a slime, so you're still slurping the slime, right? You made this hat a slime. Tongue, map. Wait, there. Nah. Ah. Oh. Happy. Eat the food. I lick the food. That's how it works. That's how it works, right? Sure. Maybe. Wait, no? Ah! What the heck? Undo. It's stuck. Oh no. Why is it stuck? Ah. Oh wait, where? Ah, crap. There we go. There we go. We got it fixed. Yeah. I think I'm gonna only do one chapter tonight, though. Yeah, it's another 40 pages-ish. Sleepy Skyr, yeah. I'm kind of sleepy. It's way too warm in here. That's only making me more sleepy.
Hi Adrian underscore smoke 191012.
Hi, Adrian. What if I spend 6? What's up, Adrian? How are you doing? Wait, what if I spent 6k slimes and made you Baldygate as Erica? What? Oh, the I like having it like tentacle through your head. Yeah. I just realized, like, wait, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what you mean. my true form, my slime form. And I wouldn't be able to hold on to you. The yogurt cup is your bed. It is. Sort of. It's more what props me up. People can see me. Ish. Close it all up so I can be tucked in and no longer breathe, right? Need a. I also need to download the next book I'm listening to, the series I'm listening to. It's an expensive venture. At least the first 4 books are free. Probably. I don't know. I never really thought about that. I think more like slimes don't necessarily need a nose to breathe air, but they just breathe through their skin. I don't necessarily need a nose. But make a nose so I look normal. Hey, we could have a no nose version. Too many toggles. I mean, I assume you work with one giant lung, right? There you go. The wiggling moves your organs. Wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle. I don't want to go back to work tomorrow. Long weekend has been nice. I actually even got chores done today. You're making me way too cool. You're making my new model cooler than I am. In other words, I gave a friend a sneak peek of it at Comic-Con a couple weeks ago, and they love it. And they admitted after that they were surprised that this model was a little bit femme, but they admitted at the time, it's like, I was like, yeah, one of your 10,000 doodles of the thing. Yeah. I think it was the most latest one, the most androgynous looking one at the moment. Not the latest, but where's Discard? Yeah, the one that's kind of colored in blue a bit on October 5th. Yeah. Mm. One day I will get better at this talking out of my ass thing. But this is gonna be it for tonight. I think I'll talk to you on Discard Foppin. Everyone else, have a good night. If you haven't already, hit the follow button. It's free to you, and just let you know when I'm live next. I should be live again tomorrow evening with some Baldur's Gate. That is if the servers work well for me. I had to choose a different server today, and it wasn't the best server to choose, apparently. But hopefully, hopefully the server that I assume was down is back up tomorrow, so we'll see. Fingers crossed, everyone. Have a good night, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Not working anymore. It worked earlier. Heck. Sorry, I was being a derpy. Weird. Okay. I'll figure that out later too. Everyone have a good night. Bye-bye.